And welcome to the Believer's Lounge Unfiltered Faith Podcast. Hey, it's our first episode.
It is. Welcome.
So we'll start this off by introducing ourselves.
My name's Michael, by the way, and I'm joined here by John. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing great.
That's great to hear. Do you want to start us off? Just share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm originally from the Wallaceburg area. Grew up in the Presbyterian church over there. When I became a teenager, moved over to the Free Reformed Church. And after going away to college, went to Heritage Park Alliance, and that got me connected here in Chatham to Gregory Drive Alliance Church. That's where I've been a member for quite a few years now.
Very nice, very nice.
How about yourself?
Well, for myself, I grew up in the Niagara region, attending at the time it was called Brethren in Christ. Now it's called the Be in Christ denomination. Grew up in that church, although I went to youth group at a Baptist church, so a little bit of differences, and then moved away, went to Bible college for a year, which was a great experience for myself, and got to see a whole lot of different kinds of churches and experience quite a few different denominations as well.
Right. And I've heard that you met your wife in Bible college?
I did, yes. For those of you who don't know, I am married. Been about 7.5 years now.
7.5 years now. And fun fact, he married my sister.
That's right. Yes. It's just one eye-opening statement after another here, isn't it?
It will be.
Yes. So that's where, again, I met my wife. And, of course, obviously, through meeting my wife, that's how I met the rest of the family, John included here. Yes, and so I, as well as my wife, we go to Gregory Drive Alliance Church as well for the last couple of years now. So
yes,
yeah.
And I hear that you just recently joined their worship team.
I have, yes. Yes, I am a musician myself. I enjoy wide variety of musical genres. I play a few different instruments. I guess you could say it's a hobby of mine, but we can go into that at another time. But how about yourself? What are some interests and experiences that you have, John?
My experiences are maybe a little different to the normal grown up in the church. I did fall away from the faith for a while in college. Ended up having some legal issues of my own, but that's how God grabbed me back and pulled me back in, and he really has revealed himself in such a much more powerful way than I had ever experienced before, and my relationship with God has only grown because of those experiences.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what led me to wanting to start this podcast. I kept hearing a lot of people's stories, a lot of testimonies, and I love hearing stories and testimonies. That's one of my favorite things to do. I will listen for hours if someone wants to share their story.
For sure.
So I had the idea of starting a podcast where we just share our stories and our testimonies, which that will happen on this podcast. We'll have guests on every now and then.
That's right, yes.
And so I brought the idea to you.
Yes.
And you had your own ideas about that.
I did, yeah. As John shared, he came to me mentioning that he had this idea for a podcast. And originally I was thinking to myself, that's a great idea. Sure enough, months later, it has. Originally, I had a similar idea at the same time, if you recall, brought to your attention about analyzing different kind of music styles and music groups, I should say. So I was considering starting some kind of podcast or other form of media regarding looking at music in a general aspect. And so when John brought this to my attention, I thought, well, this is, a podcast. At the time, I wasn't really thinking of a podcast. So at the time, I was like, this might be a really good venue for us, to use. And maybe let's combine the two, right?
Back when you and I were both in Kitchener, we'd have our early morning cafe talks.
Yes.
Down to the cafe and just have a lot of chats. And so that's kind of what we're going to do with this podcast. It's just going to be us conversing, because we're not experts in any of these topics.
No, we're not. We're not pastors or any other kind of leader in the church as well. And that's something we want all our listeners to know, is that we're just two guys wanting to encourage each other, encourage our listeners, and also be encouraged ourselves by what we're sharing, and just have an opportunity to talk through things and get a better understanding of what it's like to walk the Christian life. We, as we mentioned, we're hoping to have some guests on from time to time. Some of these guests our listeners might know, some they might not, but we're anticipating some a wide variety of guests, and hope that again you'll be encouraged by their testimony and by the experiences that they bring to our conversations.
Yeah, so if anyone is interested in being a guest on the podcast, we do have a link in the description of this episode, and it will bring you to an application form.
That's right.
And you can fill out the application form with just a little bit of information that we need to know in order to set up having a guest on.
Okay. Well, so far so good, eh?
It's so far so good. I think we should tell them what's coming up next.
Yeah.
What are we doing for our first series?
Well, that's a very good segue into that. Let's get right into it. So, for our first series, we're going to be looking at the topic of worship. And this is a topic that both John and myself are very, I would say, not only interested in, but very involved in.
Passionate. I'd say we're both pretty passionate about worship.
That's right. And so we're going to be getting into biblical worship as a starting episode, and we're going to be discussing about what the Bible tells us about worship, and how worship is an aspect of all our lives, not just a Sunday morning event.
Mm-hmm. You want to make that quite clear, that worship is not just Sunday morning singing. Worship is every day.
That's right. Exactly.
So that's our disclaimer. We understand that it's every day, but I think our focus is going to be mostly in corporate worship, and then we want to dive into kind of the musical aspect of it as well.
That's right. Yes, we're going to look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at the different genres, essentially. Going to look at contemporary music, I guess more of the traditional hymnal music, and just see how music essentially accents our worship. And then for our last worship episode, here's where things get a little more exciting. What are we looking to do in our fourth episode in the series there, John?
So for the 4th episode, we're looking at hopefully having a guest come on who is actually involved in worship, in leading worship. So that'll be pretty exciting. I'm quite excited to hear what they have to say.
For sure. Yeah, we're very much anticipating a good conversation and a good episode in that regards for episode 4.
All right, so well, that kind of brings us to the end of this episode. Let's have a few little bit of housekeeping things. I want to mention that we have our email newsletter, which people can subscribe to, get all the information for our upcoming episodes. And also join our Facebook group, where you can also get more information on the episode. If you want to send us a message, you can feel free to do that through Facebook or through the email.
That's right. And we'll have all the links that we've discussed today. Again, the guest form, our email, and our link to our Facebook, all in the description for you. So you can, if you want to interact with us, you can definitely do that.
So for today, we have Romans 12, verse 9 to 13. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality.
Very wise words from Paul in the New Testament.
So we'd like to thank each and every one of our listeners for tuning in. We hope that in our conversation you pick out something that speaks to you, and we hope you'll return again. So I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and thank you for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you next time.